Okay.
That week, I knew that God was real and that He loved me, and I'd never be alone.
Coming out of the water was different.
This is my story.
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 This is my story. Hi, my name is Justin Swank. I attend both services where I volunteer in the tech booth. I also attend Jen's life group on Wednesday nights. My wife, Amber Swank, her family's been going here for years for her mom and dad. Her dad is the drummer, Doug Allen. Her mom is Tammy Allen. And then her grandparents are Marty and Keith, who passed away in 2018. We affectionately called him Keepaw. We have 3 kids, an 8-year-old named Clark. I'm sure most of you guys know Clark. He's very talkative and doesn't know a stranger. And then we have Xander, who just turned 4, and the little princess of the family, Peyton, who's 2 years old. I am a general manager for Love's Travel Stops. I run the travel stop in Williamsville, Illinois. There for about 3 years total. I ran either the restaurant or the entire travel stop here in Decatur. I mean, I love spending time with the kids. If I'm not at work, I'm not at church, I'm spending time with them. Even if it's watching TV, playing Pokemon Go with Clark, just coaching his baseball team. I love baseball, Cardinals baseball all the way. You know, I like technology. I like spending time learning how programs work and teaching myself just computers. I like a classic turkey and cheese, but I grew up with bologna. I don't know why. Bologna and just American cheese with a little bit of mayonnaise.
Fried or not fried?
Not fried. At Hardee's at one point in time, we sold a fried bologna sandwich, and that was one of the most disgusting things I've ever smelled. I don't know how people eat that. Ugh. Amber does not like watching movies with me because I'm the nerd that likes to talk about, hey, that actor was in this and this and this, and that's this person, and they're connected to this person. Have you ever, the 7 Degrees of Bacon, I believe it is, with Kevin Bacon, where every person could be linked to him? Um, yeah, and then I wonder where Clark gets it from, where we can't watch a show without him talking during it. Well, sorry, Amber. Oh man, I have a box, and I will never throw it away because my dad gave it to me one of my last Christmases before he passed away. But it's a box of newspapers from Cardinals when they went to the World Series. It's just an old filing box full of them, but I just can't bring myself to throw it away. And I guarantee you it's moldy, it's not, but it's sentimental because it's one of the last presents he ever gave me. I don't like certain spiders. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I got bit by a spider on my leg. I have a dead spot on my leg. I can actually take a staple and staple into my leg and not feel it because I got bit by a brown recluse. So I don't like spiders. I don't mind snakes. I wouldn't own a snake, but growing up in the Boy Scouts, I've played with snakes. I've caught gardener snakes growing up. You know, animals don't really, I can't be afraid of animals with Amber as my wife. She's a vet assistant. She loves animals. If I would let her, she would probably have 50 to 100 animals and not bat an eye. And I wish I was kidding right now. I play a game that's called Golden Goblins. That's just a mindless little mining game that I use quite a bit. I love the book Lord of the Rings. When I was in, I want to say 7th grade, I had a teacher that used to have a sign up that was the Reader's Book of Rights. And one of them was that you could read. You have the right to read a book. And me being the smart aleck that I am, went up to her one day and told her, you know, I want to invoke my Bill of Rights. And I want to read a book. I don't want to do the work today. I want to read a book. And she let me. And so from that point on, every December up until probably, I don't know, junior year in college, I would read Lord of the Rings all the way through, all 4 books, every December from that one moment. My aunt bought me the book set. I loved it. Love the movies. The movies aren't quite as good as the books. Are they ever? They cut out too much. But I loved Lord of the Rings. I would have to say La Pachanga in Kirksville, Missouri. That's where Amber and I had our first almost date. I invited her around to eat. She invited friends to come too, so it was like a date, but it wasn't. I pick on her. That was also where I took her out to eat before I proposed to her. So it was this whole big thing where we went down there. I got Hardee's, the employees at Hardee's, to put up on the reader board, Amber, will you marry me? And then took her over there after we ate so she could read the reader board. And she stops in the middle of the drive-thru, just hands on her mouth, shocked. It's like, come on, you're going to get hit by a car. Move over to the side. But we haven't been in forever. We don't make it back to Kirksville very often, but it's one that we always like to go to. I like spending time with my kids. They drive me nuts. Clark drives me nuts, but he's my son. He's my firstborn son. Xander, he reminds me so much of me. If you look at a baby picture of myself and Xander side by side, you'd swear it's the same person. And then Peyton, my little gift from God, my little princess. She just makes my heart happy when I come home and she gives me a big ol' hug. I enjoy baseball. It's fun to me. I enjoy watching it. I coach Clark's baseball team, so it's a good waste of time. I'm a really good cook. Growing up, my mom, with 5 kids, she wanted to make sure she could teach us how to cook clean. I know how to sew. I know how to use a sewing machine. Not very well, but I can use one if need be. Laundry. But cooking I took to and I enjoyed it. We would go to the store and my mom would ask me what ingredients I needed. People would just give her weird looks and she'd just look at him and be like, I promise he's a good cook. So I'll make like stuffed shells. I make a really good turtle cheesecake. I just enjoy cooking when I have time. I had this army set. The little army men had little tanks with it, little bridge, and this whole big set. I think it came from my brother Jimmy, that got passed down as a hand-me-down, and I used to play with that all the time. I don't know why, I just did. I don't even know where it ended up. I know I had it, and I don't even remember, but I enjoyed playing with that. Someday I would love to learn how to skydive. I know that sounds really, really silly, but man, that takes guts. But I would love to learn how to do it because he did tandem. I'd love to learn how to do it by myself and I feel like the rush of the air and just be exhilarating. Well, ever since I started working at Love's, I like the smell of diesel. I don't know why. I mean, I just enjoy walking out there and you can smell it, and going down to the repair shop that I also manage. I don't know, the smell of it, it's weird. I don't know why to describe. You know the mosquito sound? That sound. I was at work the other day. It's the high-pitched. I was talking to an employee about explaining it to her, how it was developed. People I believe it was the UK, were using it to discourage people from loitering outside their shop. She didn't believe me, so I turned it on because I have the app on my phone. Of course I do. And she couldn't hear it, and I kept turning it up or lowering the sound wave so she should have been able to hear it. Other employees are walking up. What's that sound? It's horrible. So, I don't know. When I hear that high pitched, it grinds my gears, and yeah. I would love to travel back to like 100 AD just to see I don't know, that time frame intrigues me because it's after Jesus and it's when a good section of the Bible is being put together and wrote and you know, just, I don't know, seeing how, you know, the different councils that met to determine what's biblical and what's not. I don't know, it just intrigues me. My biggest fear is that I'm not going to be a good father to my kids. I try my best, and sometimes I get frustrated, sometimes I get upset, and I don't want them to go through what I went through growing up. I don't want to be my dad. My dad would drink a lot and couldn't control himself. When I was in kindergarten, I got kicked across the room because my room was dirty. I don't want to lose my anger like that. So I tend to be subdued, but that's my greatest fear. Fiji. When I was in probably 5th or 6th grade, I wrote a report on Fiji. I've always wanted to go. I don't know why. We had to plan a trip there, so call in travel bureaus to set up, find out. I don't know, it just looks beautiful. It's difficult.
Why?
I don't know. I used to have one of those because that was one of my favorite questions to ask for an interview was, tell me 3 words that described you best, and firm but fair was what I used for interviews for work, firm but fair.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be firm on standards, but I'm also fair and understanding.
Do you think that's still true?
I try to. Sometimes I think I'm not as firm. Life going through COVID and everything else has made me a little bit more understanding and a little bit more sympathetic to people. Actually, my wedding ring is baseball. Amber and I went to, I think it was Zales, and they had a set for a man and a woman on the screen that was actually in Cubs blue. And we were sitting there talking to how we liked it. And that year for Christmas, my old wedding ring had gotten scratched up and stuff. And so Amber spent the money on getting me the baseball ring that I had admired. Being reliable. They need to be reliable. You need to know that when you ask them to do something, when you need them to do something, they're going to do it. When you need somebody to do something and they fall short, it puts pressure on everybody else and makes life more difficult.
So this isn't about an expectation of perfection then?
No, it's just being there for somebody else, being that support. I want to grow closer to God. I mean, that's kind of a given. That's why we're here, is for a relationship to God. That's why God created us, was to have a relationship with Him. So I guess that, in a way, I want to change because I want to continually grow in God. I want, 4 years ago, I never could have thought that I'd be doing the Bible studies that I do now. At one point in time, I think I was doing 3 or 4 at once. It's made me who I am today, and I want to keep going in that same direction. A woman that called mom up there, she was kind of an adopted mom at college, encouraged me to apply. She didn't encourage me, she told me I was going to apply. When somebody named mom tells you you're going to do something, you just kind of do it. And so I applied, got hired on at Hardee's. 6 months later, they transferred me to Rushville, Illinois to take over my own restaurant, where I ran that for about 3.5 years, became a district manager for Hardee's, did that through COVID, total of 5 years. When things got difficult, by this time Xander was born. I was working anywhere 60, 70, 80 hours a week, driving an hour to and from. Decided it was just not sustainable. Gave notice without a job lined up. Cried that night, to be honest, because I was giving up a job with 2 kids at home and a wife and a house to pay for, and I had nothing lined up. But Amber and I talked about it, and we just gave it over to God, decided to apply to places over in Decatur. And I applied to Love's The very next day, I got a phone call for a job, for an interview, and set it up, and the rest is history. I started with Loves and been here ever since. Previously, we had tried to list our house in industry. It sat on the market for about a year. Nobody was buying. Nobody was even wanting to look at it due to some properties around that just reduced down the overall value. So we were planning originally to move to Hannibal, Missouri, staying with Hardee's, and just nobody was buying the house. Nobody was buying the house. We put our house on the market, and within a month, it was sold. People had looked at it, loved it, made an offer. So we actually sold our house without a new one over here. We moved in with Amber's parents, her dad and her mom. I moved in October, and then we moved into our house actually on my birthday that year, in December. It was definitely God. Prior trying to sell the house was not what he wanted. He wanted me closer to family, closer to plugged in. When we were living over in industry, I wasn't going to church. I couldn't find a church that I felt plugged into, that we felt welcomed at. We'd walk into church, nobody would say anything to us. We'd sit in the back. People would look at us like we didn't belong. It just wasn't, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel plugged in. And I always loved coming over here to Antioch to visit Doug and Tammy and family, because we'd show up to church here and we felt welcomed and we felt like we were a part of a family. So when we talked about moving to Decatur, something just felt right with it, and we gave it up and contacted our listing agent and sold the house immediately. It's funny how God works. When he wants you to be somewhere, he's going to put you there. It was the first time I ever came to Antioch Christian Church. Amber and I had basically just started dating. It was Christmas of 2011. I actually left my dad's house on Christmas Eve to drive up here to spend Christmas with Amber, and we got into a big fight. He didn't want me to leave. He thought I was abandoning family. And we argued about it, and we didn't talk for a few months after that. Actually, fast forward to Super Bowl Sunday in 2012. I was working at a gas station there at the college on the overnight shift is what I usually worked, but I was working actually Super Bowl Sunday during the Super Bowl because nobody else could. I asked a guy for his ID to purchase cigarettes, and he got upset, smacked something off the counter, and threw something at my head. As I bent down, a 1 liter bottle of soda hit me in the head, and I ended up going to the hospital. That night was the first time since Christmas Eve I had talked to my dad. So in 2.5 months, my dad died 2 weeks later of a heart attack. I firmly believe that if I had not had that soda bottle thrown at my head, that was one of those God moments where he put that in because he knows what's going to happen. He knows it's in his time. But I talked to my dad, and I got to talk to my dad for 2 weeks before he passed, that I firmly believe I would not have been able to if that soda bottle had not been thrown at me.
How does that affect you as far as like as a Christian father, and how you parent and how you're a spouse and how your walk?
So my dad was a preacher as I grew up. He preached at 2 small town churches in Missouri. So we were going to church every Sunday, but he was not the good Christian example that I should have been following. So as I'm raising my kids and trying to be a good husband to Amber, I don't want to say I try not to do that stuff, because he did do some good things for me, but I try to make sure that I'm leading the way that God intends, and not, drinking a beer on the way to church on Sunday morning to preach in the car. It's just that's kind of how my dad was.
Without having that, I mean, you know me. We always talk about mentors. Okay, so our parents are meant to be our number one discipler and mentor. In our society, that's not really as much of a thing as it used to be. So without that mentorship, guidance, how are you seeing God using other people, other men in your life to teach you the way to walk?
So I had some good Christian people growing up with, as an example. I was in the Boy Scouts, so I had a lot of good people there. A guy we called Grandpa, Ken Kleinberg. He passed away a few years ago, but he was this tiny little old man that had been doing Boy Scouts for, I swear, 60, 70, 80 years. That he was a good Christian, godly man, and he tried to lead. And if we were joking around and being inappropriate, he would get after us just because it's not appropriate. It's not right. He wanted us to live up to the Boy Scout. And so I had him. When I was in high school, I actually got invited to a youth group by a girl. We were just friends. I had gone back to live with my mom, so I got to meet a bunch of people that I had grown up with years prior. So a girl named Danielle invited me to youth group. So I started going to youth group, and I met, at the time he was my youth pastor, Greg McGee. Greg really showed me what it meant to be a good Christian father. He had 2 sons and eventually a daughter before he left the church to go lead at another church. So we would stay up playing Risk or Axis and Allies, just talking about things, just working things out. I could just go and talk to him for hours. He was a good counselor. When I was younger, I got baptized because I felt like I was the preacher's son. It was what I had to do. Well, then I went to the youth group at the First Baptist Church in Vandalia, and I realized I got baptized for the wrong reasons. So I recommitted myself and got rebaptized there because I say rebaptized, but I still firmly believe that it was the first real baptism that I had, because it actually meant something. It was me committing my life to God and admitting that I needed Him and that I wanted to follow Him and I wanted Him in my life. And then Key Paul was a great influence on me, a great mentor. Doug has been fantastic. I know sometimes we don't talk a lot. But he shows me what it means to be a good father. And then in the church, I've had people, Todd Love, Tony Hall, Steve. I have a chance to sit down with Steve regularly, and we're going through Matthew and just talking through it and discussing life, and that's just been fantastic, working with a mentor, with somebody to bounce things off of and say, this is what I'm going through, and we can just pray about it. It's a huge weight off of your chest to know that other people are going through the same thing, which, speaking of which, is also I was kind of encouraged to go to a life group for about 2-3 years, and I didn't. Finally, I started going to, I did another event for church, and that led me to realize that I needed that community of believers to sit down and connect with and grow with, that I didn't realize that I needed. I usually discuss it with Amber after I wrestle it with myself a little bit, myself and God. I pray, because if it doesn't feel like it's right for God, I learned that. I learned giving it over to God and moving over to here, to Decatur. I want to make sure it's right with God first, but on earth, I try to discuss it with Amber. She's my wife. She's my second half, my partner. So if things aren't right with her, then they're not right. I would say growing up, get ready because your nerd feelings are going to tingle. When I couldn't sleep at night, I'd go downstairs and crawl into my mom's lap, and we'd watch Star Trek together. That's when I started liking sci-fi, Star Trek, Jean-Luc Picard. That's what I grew up with. So we'd sit there and watched it through Voyager and Deep Space Nine. And when I got the call that my stepmom called me and said I needed to get to St. Louis, it's both the worst and a best memory. So I got the call. I called work. They told me, this was when I was working at the gas station, they told me not to worry about work. They would take care of it. Just go. Amber, we were just dating at the time. She actually called Taco Bell at the time and told them, and they told her just go. So we got in a car, and I drove from Kirksville to Macon, which is about a 30-minute drive in about 20 minutes. At that point in time, I got out the car and had Amber drive. I still hadn't heard. My stepmom had just said, your dad had a heart attack. We don't know what's going on. We get to Columbia, and I called my stepmom and asked for an update. And her words, I still hear them. Oh, nobody told you? He didn't make it. And at that point in time, I was screaming, yelling. I punched the roof of my car. I was upset. It's a tough way to find out that your dad passed away.
How did you pick up from that?
It was hard. I cried most of the way on the way to St. Louis. We got to go into the room at the hospital. So I got to hold his hand and kind of talk to him. On the positive side, that day, I still remember it. I looked at my mom and I told her I was going to marry Amber someday. Because she had dropped everything to come with me when I needed somebody.
So in the days after losing your dad, how did you, because you talked like there wasn't a lot of, there were some men in your life. Did you have men who walked that with you?
Not really. I was living in Kirksville at the time. I had some, like I said, my Kirksville dad that I mentioned earlier, they were very supportive. They took us out to eat. They took care of us so we didn't have to worry about anything. Later that week, we had to drive back down to St. Louis for his memorial service, where I got to see a lot of people with Boy Scouts that I'd grown up with that, were supportive, and just wasn't the same though. I felt alone.
How have you worked through that grief since then?
It still pops up every once in a while. When my stepmom passed away, she had a huge picture of him in the house. None of my siblings wanted to take it, so I took it, and it sits right outside of the bathroom I get ready in every single morning. So every single morning I get to walk out and see my dad still.
So you said you had a couple of weeks with him before he passed. Were you two able to find some restoration through that? Were you able to move past the sins of the father and heal?
We talked not quite every day, but almost every day. We never really talked about the fight that we had, the argument. We just picked up like it didn't happen. So we would chit chat. We would, ask me how my day went, how I was feeling, if I was getting better. It was nice being able to talk to him. I grew up in the church, like I said. My dad was a preacher. I'd heard Bible stories growing up. I had a Bible. But I don't feel like I ever really knew Jesus until I was in high school, going to that youth group, getting plugged into that church, the First Baptist Church of Vandalia. I started doing sound there, go figure. Sound and running slides, go figure. So I got plugged in. I was doing it on Sunday nights, Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights, working with Greg again, talking through it, really diving into, just things that ailed me, things that, I'd been through in my life. But Greg helped me really get to know Jesus, get to meet God. I think 12 years where we couldn't find a church. where we weren't plugged in with the community of fellow believers. We plateaued. I plateaued. Not going regularly to services. We'd go once every 2 to 3 months here. We just weren't growing. We weren't developing.
What's the difference of life in that state, in that plateaued state, versus where you feel you're at, where you're constantly being pushed to grow?
Well, I've told this story before, not today, but during that time frame where we weren't going to church was also when my dad passed away. I had first weekend where I was a member of a co-ed service fraternity. I went a little bit overboard after he passed away, spent way too much money drinking, just being dumb. No other way to put it, being dumb. My fraternity advisor, also called Mom Caraway, she yelled at me because of things I had done the weekend. It's funny how those moms can be. But then fast forward to within 2 months of each other, I lost my stepmom and my brother when I was going to this church. I didn't fall. I didn't go crazy. I had the warm embrace of the church. I remember Carrie DeVore walking into the sound room after my brother died, putting her hand on my shoulder and just gently squeezing and telling me how sorry she was. That meant the world to me. Having those people that just, they loved us, that I didn't have before. It's the community. You have to be involved. You have to be plugged in. You have to grow his kingdom, because that's what we're called for. The redeemed are called to redeem. That's what it's about. It's about creating more followers, and good things will come to you. Why did I have to lose my dad so young? Why did my sister not get my dad at her graduation? That tore her up. That was hard seeing my young sister, my little sister, go through that. You have to trust God. You have to give it over to God, and He'll provide. You may not see it. You may not see it immediately, but He'll provide. Just have to wait and be patient. People need you. They need you to be open, understanding. They need you to be a leader, whether you're a formal leader or informal leader. Whether you're a parent, they need you. Clark, the people in the sound room, people at Life Group, they need you to be understanding. They need you to listen to them. Just being there for them is important. I think a men's life group that they can sit down, not talk about the weather, not talk about sports, and really dig in. I know that we have Men of Issachar that I did not get to participate this time. I don't know how that's going, but I think getting more of those groups together, even small groups, 3, 4, 5 people that can meet together to talk the things through, to know that we're not alone. We're going through the same things. It's okay not to be okay. I felt led to. It's interesting because of how long I fought doing different things, how long I dug in my heels. Amber had talked about moving back to Decatur in the past. I'd been asked to join a life group for a while. Hey, it's babysitting. I'd have the kids. Oh, we have daycare. We have childcare. It would be okay. You have to turn it over to God. You have to listen. You have to have your ears open, because in His time, He'll do things. But you have to be willing to go through with it in His time, because if your ears are closed, you're not going to hear it.